Not that long ago, movies based on video games were more of a bad joke than anything close to a real success. Most people avoided them because, let's face it, they were usually awful. But the world has changed. These days, game adaptations are making their way into Hollywood again, and little by little, they're actually starting to work. But even in the middle of this shift, there's still one name that sticks in people's minds: Warcraft. In this video, we're diving into one of the most controversial game-to-movie adaptations ever made. A film that had a sequel planned, but never got made. So the big question is, what happened to Warcraft 2? If you're curious about that answer, you're in the right place. Let's break it down. From the mid-90s to the late 2010s, pretty much every movie based on a popular video game either flopped at the box office or got torn to pieces by critics. Street Fighter, Super Mario Bros., Alone in the Dark, Hitman, Max Payne, just a few examples from the massive graveyard of game adaptations that were supposed to launch major franchises, but instead ended up as complete failures. Studios wanted to bring the worlds of games to the big screen, but they had no idea what they were dealing with. The world of video games is full of interactive storytelling, player-driven choices, and characters that fans literally lived with. So when these massive worlds were rushed into a 90-minute movie, the result was always the same: disappointment. And all those back-to-back failures led to a belief, a dark myth that grew inside Hollywood itself, that video game movies are cursed. Anyone who touches them is doomed. And it wasn't just fans who believed that. It became a real fear among studios too. Even when a big-budget film like Prince of Persia got made, or when Resident Evil kept churning out sequels, critics still weren't happy. And most casual viewers? Just confused. Warcraft was made in that exact kind of environment. Even though games had already become cultural powerhouses, Hollywood still didn't know how to handle them properly. Warcraft was supposed to break that curse. To prove that, yes, it is possible to take a massive, complex game world and turn it into a legit, powerful cinematic experience. But to really understand what happened and what went wrong, we need to go back to the very beginning, to the moment Blizzard decided to bring their cinematic dream to life. In 2006, at the height of World of Warcraft's popularity, Blizzard made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the gaming world. A Warcraft movie was officially in the works. This was a time when the Marvel Cinematic Universe hadn't even fully taken shape yet, and fantasy adaptations were rarely successful. Still, Blizzard partnered with Legendary Pictures to bring the vast world of Azeroth to the big screen. For millions of gamers, it was a dream come true. People who had spent years battling with orcs, humans, and night elves were finally going to see their beloved universe brought to life in live action. But Blizzard faced a major problem. The Warcraft universe wasn't just one story, it was a galaxy of stories. Dozens of races, timelines, characters, gods, spells, betrayals, and wars. From Warcraft 1 and 2 to Warcraft 3 and eventually World of Warcraft, every era had its own fan base and its own lore. Behind closed doors, Blizzard wrestled with the big question: which story do we tell? Where do we even begin? And eventually, they decided to go all the way back to the beginning, the original conflict between humans and orcs from the first Warcraft game. Blizzard hoped that by doing this, they'd not only satisfy the hardcore fans, but also make it easier for newcomers to understand the world. But Blizzard's ambition wasn't just to make one movie. The real goal was to build an entire cinematic universe, something like the MCU, with multiple sequels, overlapping characters, and interconnected stories. That's why from the very start, every creative decision was approached with extra care and long-term planning. The script went through multiple rewrites. Directors came and went. Years passed without even a single frame being shot. But behind the scenes, the project was still alive, just stuck in constant development limbo. One of the strangest moments during that time came when Uwe Boll, the infamous director behind some of the worst video game movies ever made, like Alone in the Dark, widely called one of the worst films of all time, applied to direct Warcraft. Blizzard's response? A firm no. But not just any no. They reportedly told him, "We will not sell the movie rights to you, not to you. A bad movie could destroy the entire Warcraft franchise." That reaction showed just how seriously Blizzard was taking this. For them, Warcraft wasn't just another adaptation. It was the first step towards something bigger. and they were determined not to screw it up. By 2013, after years of rewrites and dead ends, Blizzard finally chose a director, not just someone who loved fantasy, but someone who was also a real gamer, Duncan Jones. Known for the sci-fi film Moon, and yes, the son of music legend David Bowie, Jones brought both creative vision and personal passion to the table. The moment Jones joined the project, things started to change. He rewrote nearly 50% of the existing script. Why? Because he didn't want to make a cliché story about good humans versus evil orcs. His goal was to show both sides of the war, to help the audience understand each faction's motives and even empathize with their so-called enemies. Later that same year, at Comic-Con 2013, fans got a first glimpse of what was coming. A visual teaser showed that this movie wasn't just going to be big, it was going to be huge. Jones announced that filming would begin in January 2014, and soon after, actors like Travis Fimmel from Vikings and Ben Foster joined the cast. On the surface, everything seemed ready to roll. The actual filming only took about 4 months, but post-production, that lasted over 20 months. Why so long? Because of the massive amount of CGI, especially for the orcs, who were designed entirely with digital effects. A huge portion of the time and budget was spent on bringing these creatures to life convincingly. But while the public focused on the visuals, something far more personal was happening behind the scenes. Right around the time Duncan Jones took on the project, his wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And just months before the film's release, his father, David Bowie, passed away after battling cancer himself. Jones later said in an interview with the New York Times, "The film started with cancer and it ended with cancer." Under all of that pressure, emotional, professional, and creative, Duncan Jones kept going. He finished the film. After nearly a decade of development, rewrites, and production delays, Warcraft was finally ready to hit theaters. Its original release date? December 2015. But there was a problem. That's the exact month Star Wars: The Force Awakens was hitting theaters. The studio saw the danger and made a quick decision to push the release back. The new date was June 10th, 2016. The production budget alone was around $160 million, and when you add marketing, ads, and theater cuts, the film needed to make roughly $450 to $500 million worldwide just to break even. But the opening weekend in the US was underwhelming, just $24 million. The total US box office barely hit $47 million. For a big budget film like this, that's a major flop. But just when everyone thought Warcraft was dead on arrival, something unexpected happened. China.
In China, Warcraft absolutely exploded. The film made $225 million there alone, a record-breaking number for a video game adaptation. China single-handedly made up nearly half of the movie's total global box office. In the end, Warcraft grossed $439 million worldwide, and at the time it became the highest-grossing video game movie ever made. But despite that impressive number, it still wasn't enough. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the film actually lost about $15 million for its producers. And just like that, the dream of a Warcraft cinematic franchise began to fall apart. Warcraft was a movie that failed in the US, succeeded in China, and ultimately landed in a strange middle ground. Not a total disaster, but not a true hit either. Just a big budget film that couldn't quite bridge the gap between two worlds. After the first movie came out, there were whispers about a planned sequel. The working title was Warcraft 2: Tides of Darkness. In 2017, Duncan Jones even revealed parts of the potential storyline. He said the second film would have focused heavily on Thrall, his early life, childhood, and time in captivity. Meanwhile, the Alliance would face new threats beyond just the orcs. Even more exciting, new races like the Night Elves were going to enter the story. A huge step toward expanding the cinematic universe. But as time went on, that hope started to fade. In 2018, when asked about the sequel, Duncan Jones said, "No one really knows if it'll ever happen. Saying yes is hard. Saying no is easy." Then, in 2020, an unofficial report claimed that Legendary Pictures had started developing something new in the Warcraft universe, but no one knew if it was a reboot or a continuation. And since then, it's been total silence. Warcraft 2, despite having a concept, a title, and even a roadmap, never made it past the early planning stages. Characters, arcs, and ideas were all left hanging, and to this day, it remains a big what could have been. So now we've got to ask, do you think it's finally time for a Warcraft 2, or has the franchise lost its magic, and maybe it's better that the first film stays as it is, unfinished and half forgotten? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to Cut Club for more deep dives like this. Until next time, thanks for watching.